Good evening. The regular meeting of the Wallingford Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission is called for Wednesday, April 6, 2016, is called to order. The time is 7:03 p.m. Will everyone join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The roll call.
Nick Kern.
David Parent.
Deborah Phillips.
Michael Caruso. Daryl Porto.
Erin O'Hare, Environmental Planner.
The voting members today will be Nick, myself, Deborah, Mike, and Daryl. Consideration of the meetings. Has the commission members had an opportunity to review the minutes? Are there any omissions? Or corrections? May I have a motion to approve the meetings of approve the minutes of the meeting of March 2, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that the minutes of the meeting of March 2nd of the Inland Wetlands Watercourses Commission be accepted as submitted.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Old business, application A15-11.3, 1303 Durham Road. Identify yourself.
My name is Jennifer Warnick. My address is 1309 Durham Road, Wallingford, Connecticut. I'm back after being here last month. I had taken into advisement what the committee was asking for in the plan, so I had written the plan out in more detail. We still hadn't gotten an engineer. I've actually, in the course of this evening and yesterday, I've spoken with the Water Division, and I know the Water Division is pretty adamant about an engineer. In asking him, what he would require from an engineer's plan versus my plan, it was basically stated that my plan is acceptable. It's just that he wants more reassurance that my plan is going to be adequate enough for the trench. And so basically nothing, from the way I interpret it from him, and he notified me at 5 o'clock this evening. I did request somebody from the Water Division be here, but he stated it was, a little bit of a last minute notice, but he only called me at 5. It's basically that they're not going to change anything about our plan. He stated that, he just wants somebody with experience in the department. I tried to explain to him that 2 of the people that are on this project are the 2 people that did this project 50 years ago. So you kind of can't get more experience than the people that originated this project and first put the original set of pipes in and actually built the pond. They've dealt with the stream the longest. They're more familiar with it than anybody you could possibly hire. They've lived there their entire lives, so they're beyond familiar with the stream, the water, the project. In speaking with the Water Division, him and I, we kind of went back and forth on the matter of, he does pretty much feel that it should be dredged, but he has no comment and can't say one way or the other whether it should be dredged. But in explaining to him that what everybody is calling a dam, in reading, and in talking to him, and when he mentioned a hydraulic failure, what everybody fails to understand is this is not a man-made dam that is on the end of this pond. All it is where a couple big rocks from nature have managed to fall and form and get put. I have pictures on my phone from speaking with him yesterday about the possible risk of all these rocks just moving. I have a picture on my phone of a rock that's probably about this size of the table that has already come out of place and started to go downstream. And that's part of the dam that everybody is referring to. And he, implied to me that the Water Division's sole purpose is to ensure safe and clean drinking water for the town, which if the rocks move, all this sediment is going to go downstream anyways. Then you're in much more of a predicament than you were in the first place of us just moving sediment. And he asked about the canal being adequate enough and what happens if it flows over. If it flows over the canal we dig, I understand that the photos didn't come out so well. I brought the photos in color if it would help better. But that entire area that we would dig out, we wouldn't be touching under that bridge that you see. It's a historical bridge. We can't. We can't touch underneath it. We can't possibly risk the structure. That entire area would have to fill with water before any of that water would then cross over all that soil that's left underneath the bridge to possibly ever venture downstream. So I don't understand him saying that my plan is good, but it almost sounds, I take it as he either wants my family to suffer an undue hardship by having to pay for an engineer when we're already we're picking up all the costs. It's our time, our labor, our machines, our fuel, our everything. We're picking up the entire cost of the project. To then try to force more undue hardship, it doesn't logically make sense when he sees nothing wrong with my plan other than I take it as he wants somebody to sign their name on a line so he has somebody to blame.
Well, you talk about the blame. Unfortunately, today we've regulated ourselves to death with everybody's worried about liability. You're in a start of drink. The water department's job is to keep the water as clean and purified and as fresh as they can. So their concern is if for some strange reason something happened out there, whatever, there's a spill or the fines go downstream, whatever, just worst case scenario, your liability would never clean up the mess that may be caused out there. So what they're saying is they know you as a homeowner, your homeowner's insurance wouldn't cover whatever type of disaster might happen. The engineer carries a lot more liability insurance because he has to, because of the nature of the beast, what he does. So if you have an engineer review it, pay the engineer to review it, and he signs it off and you submit it, the liability falls on the engineer's, basically the engineer's responsibility.
I understand, wanting somebody on the line that maybe their business would cover it, or the only way that any of that could happen and anything could go downstream, I understand, people say, well, what if this happened? And for any such circumstance to happen, that dam, because that seems to be the word we're using to describe it, for anything to go wrong, that dam would have to let go, which is what it's already at risk of. So when we talk about liability, what happens as a resident of Wallingford when we bring it to the town's attention, to Wetlands' attention, to the Water Division's attention, that this is going to happen in 6 months, a year, this is something that's going to happen, and we say, we're willing to take on the task and the cost of fixing the problem. And then the town says, well, we want to force even more undue hardship. On top of all that cost that you're going to take on to complete the project, we want you to take on additional costs. So now if we back out and we say we refuse the unnecessary hardship, then what happens with liability when we then put the town on notice and the Water Division on notice that this formation of rocks is going to move, this sediment is going to go downstream? When it does, there are 22 trees on the edge of our driveway that the water is eroding. If the dam lets go, all the water goes out, and that isn't addressed, all 22 of those trees either hit and take out our bridge and or go in the pond.
It's an act of Mother Nature. The other thing that we haven't discussed is the DEP gets involved. They're anti-dam. They go around looking for little ponds like yours, or little man-built ponds or Mother Nature ponds, and they don't like dams. They don't like to restore them, they don't like to see them. So in the case like yours, if yours blew out and washed away, that's great. They don't promote dams.
But now, what about the amount of sediment that is going to flow downstream and into the town's drinking water when the town could have prevented it?
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, I think we have to back up a little bit, and maybe we'll help you understand it better. You're the owner of the property. It's a valuable piece of property, okay? But with ownership comes responsibility. And that dam or whatever it is on your property, that is your responsibility. That you've told us that there's a problem with the dam does not relieve you of any responsibility or place it on the town. It's just your acknowledgement of what you're really doing is acknowledging your responsibility. Now, with respect to correcting it, the original structure was put in without the benefit of an engineer, and now you have a difficulty today. And so the cure, if you will, or if there is a cure, the cure should be something that needs to be devised by an engineer, because an engineer, using his skill and knowledge, and can devise something that should work, and as Mr. Kern says, if it doesn't, there's some liability insurance so that there is a recovery in case it doesn't. It may well be that your ideas are good. It may well be that the engineer will look at what you have to say, it makes sense, and he can make his measurements, devise a plan, make sure, for example, I think you have to spread some of this dredging around, but that gets placed in the same place, gets placed in a place where it's not going to cause further damage. That's why that's why you need an engineering plan. You may be very good in construction, but you're not representing yourself or haven't represented yourself to be a professional engineer. You talk about the hardship that goes with having to pay money for an engineer. That's true. It is. I mean, people, I think it's safe to say they don't like to pay money for engineers. They don't like to pay money for attorneys. Nobody, comes in and says, oh boy, I want an attorney so I can just have fun spending money. That doesn't occur. But given the size of your property and the value that it has, then we feel that it's prudent that in order to protect this property of great value, that it makes sense to either, if you pay for the thing out of pocket, or borrow the money to get the engineer in order to make sure that you have a plan, that you can go in, and fortunately you can do your own work without having to hire a contractor, and restore your property to its value. I'd further point out, if you had to sell a property tomorrow or something like that, the cost of correction, if you will, certainly would be reflected in the eventual sales price of the property. So again, it's really in your best interest, to do the work, get the study. Get the engineering plan, bring it to us, let us approve your permit, get the work done, and be done with it.
At the end of the day, I guess nobody can convince me that to go and spend an additional few $1,000s isn't a hardship. It is a hardship.
Oh, nobody's, wait, excuse me. Yeah, I think I alluded to that. Nobody really is happy spending money for civil engineers or spending money on attorneys. We know that. That is a hardship. It does cost you money. However, it is also a prudent investment in it is a very prudent investment to safeguard a valuable property.
I mean, to us, a prudent investment is investing our time, our energy, our effort, our machinery. That's a prudent investment. That's something we're willing to do.
Well, that's true, but this is something, and you're in especially a fortunate position that you can do the work. You're not in the situation, say, with a landlord and a similarly situated landowner who's got the same problem. But the thing is, now they're going to have to hire someone like you to do you or your firm to do the work. Now, I know that you would have to charge, if you were to go to have that done by somebody else, you would be talking a great deal of money. So you do have that advantage. Your only disadvantage is you have to pay for the engineer.
No, sir, I kind of have to correct you there because our only advantage is that we are willing to do the work. The equipment we have at my family's business isn't adequate enough equipment to do the project. So I still have to go spend in the neighborhood of $3,000 to $5,000 on equipment rental. So to then tack an additional,
But it's certainly is far less than if you were going to hire somebody to come in and do the whole job by themselves. It's lucky that, you're fortunate that you can.
that I'm willing to work.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's certainly you can get it done more cheaply than I could get it done if it was my property.
we can because we wouldn't be able to afford to do it any other way. We wouldn't be able to afford to hire a contractor to come in and do it. So if we're not willing to work, then we already can't afford the project. So to then throw on all that additional money that we're saving by us doing the manual labor, we no longer can afford the project.
Well, the point is that, and I think that probably this is all we need to say about it. Yes, we recognize that it is money, that paying that $6,000 is going to cost is a lot of money. We recognize that $3,000 on top is a lot of money, total of $9,000. However, but they are necessary expenses that accrue to your ownership of the property, and that the fact that it's and that we regard it as a wise investment, or we do, but it is something that if you want to correct the property the way it's going to be, in a way that is engineeringly sound, will protect you from any liability, that is what you're going to do. It's a hard job, but that is what needs to be done. I'm sorry, I'm not, anybody else have any questions on this?
No comment.
I got one more thing to ask her. Worst case scenario is that water and sewer have kind of put their foot down as far as the engineering. You let it go, what happens? It blows out, it washes downstream, then where are we there? Do you come back in front of us asking for permission to repair, or?
No, sir. At that point, per behalf of my father,
Right.
if we are unallowed to fix this safety hazard, which is what it is for us, and we are unallowed to preserve our historical bridge without undue hardship, then per my father, we would not reapply to fix it. We would, worst case scenario, put the town on notice that this is something that can happen, considering we do not own the dam fully ourselves, and considering it is something that nature put there, it relieves us of our liability of the matter, and then puts the town on notice. And then, per my father, if that was the case and our driveway got washed out and something happened to our bridge, we would then pursue legal action against the town to whatever matter he could. And not to mention that if any of these trees or any such matter fall in the pond, or in the meantime, then my father will not give permission for our driveway to be used if the town ever tries to remedy the problem, so on and so forth.
Does the town use your driveway now?
If the town ever needed to fix the problem, like if the dam let go and the town had to come, tried to come fix it or deal with cleanup, the only way to access it would be our driveway.
If you went in front of the state, which is higher up than we are,
Yes, sir.
we're the local jurisdiction. If you went to the state right now and pleaded your case with them, they'd tell you let Mother Nature take its course.
I understand that. I spoke with the Army Corps, and in all honesty, in explaining this and submitting the same thing to the Army Corps, my response from the Army Corps was, what is your town's problem? You do not need a permit for us. We see nothing wrong with temporarily diverting a stream to put it back. So,
But as you're doing this as a joint venture with the town, you keep bringing the town into this picture. The town wants the small part of this project with you is the liability. The town wants to know that your project is in good hands. And unfortunately, that engineer is going to charge you whatever he charges you the going rate. It's required to do the next link of this puzzle you're putting together. And
the Water Division is who is requiring it. I mean, and I understand, this is the Wetlands Commission. I understand that they advise you folks. You folks, at the end of the day, are who can approve it or deny it. The Water Division can say, well, at that point, if the Wetlands approves it and then you go to start work, then the Water Division is going to step in and at that point shut down work. And if that was the case, then that would then fall on the Water Division versus the Wetlands Commission, because I do understand from the gentleman I was talking with that even if you folks do approve my permit tonight, as soon as we do start work, he will be there to put an immediate stop work order on our job.
there's just so many other things that tag on to this with us. This, you came in front of us, that was just the start of what needs to be done. There's a spreadsheet of requirements: sediment and erosion control, emergency procedures, water purification. There's a whole list of things that you'd have to provide to us before we could even vote yes to it. And you need their blessing because they're part of the package, the link that you're putting together, the puzzle you're putting together here. The water and sewer plays a part because of what goes on downstream. What you don't want to do is you don't want to take it out of town. You want to try to keep it confined at home where you have.
Unfortunately, sir, at home I'm getting nowhere. So my only option after that, if we get denied, is to simply do what my father asked and put the town on notice of the imminent threat of all this sediment going downstream, notify the residents, newspapers, whatever it so may be. I am strictly a messenger on his behalf on that.
I understand
We
perfectly.
understand that. And again, but what you are telling us, you've got an issue on the property for which you are liable.
No, sir, it's an act of nature, sir. The dam was created by nature. It is no way man-made. No way in shape or form was that dam man-made. All it is it happens to be two large boulders. One sits on my neighbor's property and one sits on my property. And a couple of larger rocks that have collected over the years are all huddled around those two larger boulders. I have photos. I can show you. It's nothing man-made.
Okay. I think at this point, I haven't heard from Ms. O'Hare.
Okay, the environmental planner's report dated March 31st went out in your first packet, and that was before Jennifer, who is the daughter of the applicant, before Jennifer submitted that narrative describing sort of a revised proposal, a proposal that's a little bit different from the one the Southwest Conservation District had crafted for the property owner. That narrative went out in the second packet. I just wanted to clarify. There's two
okay.
different documents that were sent out. Basically, I just summarized everything that was, I hit on the high points of what was said tonight, and that the Water Division stands firm. I talked to them again today, and they stand firm, and they explained their reasoning behind that. So Bottom line is, the Wetland Commission is out of time statutorily. We got the 2 extensions. We can't ask for another extension. So there's several things that could now happen with this application. The applicant can withdraw it, which I've explained to her. She could withdraw the application before you take action. Or if she doesn't want to do that, you could take action to deny the project based on insufficient information because you don't have a very detailed plan and you don't have the engineer's certification on this plan. Third, you could approve it or whatever. I guess there's a fourth option. You could just do nothing. Although the town attorney has always advised me, it's best to take some kind of action. Unlike planning and zoning, when they don't do anything, it's approved. We don't have that here with the wetland. That's not the way the wetland regulations work. So have no fear about that. It just goes away. But I suggest that you take some action if the applicant doesn't want to withdraw the application. And she's, by the way, she's free to apply anytime. There's no like six-month waiting period with planning and zoning. I understand there's a waiting period. You can just reapply
But we'll be
anytime.
back in the same boat.
If she withdraws, Aaron, are we able to refund some of her application fee besides what goes to the state?
There is a clause that talks about waiving fees. I don't know if this would apply since a lot of staff time has gone into this, a lot of review time on a lot of different people's parts have gone into this. But we could look at that. We could look at that. Your commission would have to vote on that.
Okay.
I'm not permitted to withdraw the application. I am told that I have to get a definitive answer so that we then have a definitive answer of what my course of action my father takes from
We
here.
understand. All right, so then we need to move forward with a decision on whether we yea or nay it, basically.
Yeah, and then I would just, if it is denied, I would just like to basically put the town on notice while I'm on camera of an imminent threat to the public's drinking water, to our driveway, to our historical bridge. I'm just reciting what I was told to say at the meeting, and that is that if we are unallowed to do this without incurring an additional hardship than we already are taking on versus, we're not asking the town for any cost reimbursement, anything. We are willing to undertake the whole project. So if we are denied, at that point, he would just like to put the town on notice, and he would rather spend the money on lawyers and legal fees and to let it be known that when all these 20-something trees fall in the, into the pond and contaminate the water, that no way, shape, or form is anybody allowed on our driveway, and if anything happens to our driveway and or to our bridge, that he will hold the town responsible due to the fact of not being able to be allowed to fix it without undue hardship.
Okay, just as long as you understand, you're going to open up a bag of worms if it goes this route. Okay, you're just a messenger, I understand.
He's 60-something years old, like his exact words to me are, if they want to open worms, we'll open them, because I guess his next step would be to involve the Historical Society due to the fact that our bridge is historical. It's one of 7 registered covered bridges in Connecticut. It's been featured in the Record Journal. So at that point, his next step is the state, the Historical Society, all of that.
It's going to be a shame to have a bridge with no water to go under it.
It'll be a shame when the pipes fill and the stream no longer even feeds the reservoir, that our pond moves from the left side of our driveway to the right side.
Okay.
Okay. Is any comments from anyone else?
No comments.
In this case, we need a finding of,
Just, you could deny the application based on insufficient information, and
but do we need a motion on significant activity?
Yes.
yes.
Okay, that's my first, okay. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion, application A15 11.3, 1303 Durham Road, Henry Warnick, pond dredging, tree removal, and yard grading be deemed a significant activity.
Dean,
Yes.
do I have a second on the motion?
Second.
Call for a vote.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, application A15, 11.3, 1303 Durham Road, Henry Warnick Pond dredging, tree removal, and yard grading be denied without prejudice. The reason for my voting of no to this application is lack of information and not comfortable with going further with it.
Do I have a second on the motion?
Second.
Any discussion?
You best to give your reason.
Okay, and I'm going to have to vote no for that because I don't have enough information to proceed, because I don't have that engineering drawing. And just to show you what we're talking about, this is what we get, when we're doing a project. Anybody else?
They're all going to vote. They all have to give.
Yeah.
You're going to vote no, you got to give the reason why, or the yes, the reason why. Right? It's got to go on record for down the road.
Okay, there you go.
Right? Debbie can go next.
No, because I feel the engineering information is not here. We would need that to make a decision.
Voting no, lack of information, lack of engineering approval.
And I'll also vote no. I agree that the Water Division said that they wanted a engineering report, and we don't have that.
Then call for a vote. Nick?
Yes.
Debbie?
Yes.
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 Sorry. Good night.
No problem, thank you. Other options from here.
Okay, excuse me. Next item, application A15-12.170 North Pinelands Industrial Road, Karate Developers.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For your record, my name is Dennis Sonaviva. To my left is John Gable, our engineer from Connecticut Consulting Engineers. We were last here in January. Nice to see you all again. Since that last time that we were present on this application, you may recall from your environmental reports and probably from your knowledge from that January meeting, there were some questions that were raised by the commission relating to the oil water separators that were in place at the site, also with regards to a fueling station. And so since that time, the applicant and the engineer have gone, met with your personnel and have developed a new plan to the cost of about $60,000 more, but it's a much better plan. You've got a report from the town engineer and also your environmental planner's report for tonight. There are, maybe we could get John up to the easel. When we were last here, Mr. Chairman, there was a concern about the existing oil water separators. There were two there. The plan is to replace those two aging oil water separators with two new HydroWorks oil water separators, state-of-the-art. They're referenced in the environmental planner's report dated March 31st. They're also designed to handle a 25-year storm. The earlier system, I believe, only handled a 10-year storm, and of course the standard for the town is 25 years, so this change resolves the inadequacy of the original proposal. There's also been a revision to the stormwater management maintenance plan to incorporate these new units, and there will be a revised stormwater management maintenance plan that we're offering to file that, and that's being proposed by the planner, file that on the land records to ensure compliance. And again, these would be new units. There was some concerns raised, I think Mr. Kern raised those the last time about the perforated pipes and some of the questions about whether or not the soil may have been contaminated by the earlier system and the previous uses. And again, as the environmental planner's report indicates, there have been, a test pit was dug, there was some testing done confirming that the underground perforated pipe system did not contain oil or silts. There was none of that in evidence. In addition, this site has been thoroughly reviewed by licensed environmental professionals. It was an establishment, certainly during the time of different transfers, there had been a very extensive analysis of both the groundwater and the soil, and reports filed. You may recall that there is in place an environmental land use restriction on this property that precludes this site to be used for residential purposes. Because there's different, as you know, there's different remediation standards for residential uses versus commercial and industrial uses. So this site can never be used for residential use. It's in, of course, the industrial zone and certainly no intention to do so. Additionally, there was concerns because there is a proposed fueling station tank to be located on the site. I think there were concerns about the adequacy of protecting that tank, and so what my client is proposing to acquire and use there in order to protect that tank is a 2,000-gallon Convault tank. And John, I think, has some specs on that. I think, from what I understand, you can blow several sticks of dynamite near this Convault and still have no impact on the underlying tank. So it's state-of-the-art also. So all these expenses were generated properly so by the concerns of the commission at the January meeting, and we are in front of DEP with regard to some of the activity that we're proposing or taking place at the site. Again, the oil water separator systems are new, state-of-the-art, designed to handle the 25-year storm, and the new Convault tank is being proposed. The fire marshal has approved the plan also for that tank. So, John, if you can just identify where those changes have been proposed.
For the record, John Gable with Connecticut Consulting Engineers. To the northeastern part of the site, right near the exit, is where the 2,000-gallon Convault tank is going to be located. It's going to be surrounded by the concrete bollards. The two hydrodynamic separators are going to be in the same areas where the existing tanks were located, here and here. Everything else is basically staying the same.
You also had some concerns about the historical uses of the site. There had been a group called Pentron Clinical Technologies that operated there. There was filed with DEP and approved by them a Form 2 verification back in September of 2014, and that indicates all the testing that had been done over a period of a couple of years, and the conclusion that was submitted as part of the Form 2 verification and approved by DEP, again, is that there is no evidence of any contamination to soils or to the groundwater.
Do you know if there's ever been any cleanup there?
Yeah, I think there was remediation back in 2010, from what I understand. That's when they first started with this establishment process. So there were 5 hotspots found. There was cleanup done, and then a determination made that there was no further cleanup needed because whatever remained was below the remediation standards for industrial or commercial use. And that's why the environmental land use restrictions were put in place.
So basically, when Mr. Cariotti purchased the property, it's just the stormwater management is outdated and it needs to be revised?
Yeah, and I think what I think this commission determined was that it appeared that that might be problematic. I think the planner saw that there was a substantial amount of growth around the system. You know, it had been vacant for a period of time. Mm-hmm. So now he's getting a state-of-the-art, but he's got a long-term commitment to the town of Wallingford, and it's prudent money spent, I would guess.
I'm glad to see that we've gone the step forward in the right direction as far as that water eventually ends up in the Quinnipiac, which heads south to the ocean. But I think it's a great improvement.
Thank you.
See, comments from anyone else?
No.
Any comments?
No.
Ms. O'Hare?
I just wanted to mention the environmental planners report dated March 31st basically hits all the points that Mr. Senaviva mentioned about how the project has been improved up to my satisfaction now. I did have one question for John Gable in that the oil water tank that was required by the sewer division is going to go in soon. That's for the floor drain. So where's that, what's holding that up from getting installed?
I think the tank is being made at this time. Once they got approved by the water division, they put the order in to make the tank. And I think in some paperwork that was filed with your office, they anticipate that to be sometime in June.
Right. And they are in the process, as Dennis and Aviva mentioned, in front of the DEP for those 2 permits. That was explained in some of the paperwork that went out. So I feel comfortable that that will all happen. So as I say in my report, I recommend that the application be approved with the one condition. That's, would you like me to read that one condition?
Yeah, because somebody's going to have to write it down to make it.
Oh, well, it's on the back of the environmental planners report, and it's that a copy of the stormwater management maintenance plan, which was dated revised March 31st, 2016, is to be filed on the land records, and a copy of the recording submitted to the environmental planner. The filing of that shall occur before the new and expanded stormwater management system, which consists of the new units and the additional subsurface piping, is installed and operational. A copy of that is to be submitted at a maximum 6 months from the inland wetland approval date. Should it not be filed within the stipulated time period, the permittee shall report to the Wetland Commission on the circumstances preventing its timely filing. Do you have any issue with that, Mr. Senaviva?
I don't. Well written.
I just got a couple more questions. You want on the permit status that the engineer submitted here, he's got the second part of this permit is a professional certification. This portion of the permit must be filled out by a professional engineer once the tank has been installed. So your job will be to make sure that the tank goes in. Now, unfortunately, it sounds like we're bad guys here because we're asking for a whole bunch of stuff to be done. Really, all we take the credit for is what's going on with the stormwater discharge. As far as the floor drain system, that would be mandatory under the circumstances of how he applied for a repair license or wherever he's working it. So we don't take the credit or we don't get the demerits for the floor drains. I mean, that's something that comes along with the turf. But the outside stormwater, we did request because of the outdated system. So basically, you're going to sign off what they install and...
Correct. That's part of the process. After that's completed, then we can proceed to finalize the industrial permit.
Now, does that go to DEP and you have to apply through them for?
Yes, that's a condition. We were not allowed to proceed without having that in place first.
All right, so there's nothing to be discharged into the sanitary sewer until?
No, that had to be disconnected and then rerouted through the new tank right over here. It's a 750-gallon oil separator that's connected to the sewer system over here.
Okay. All right.
And that, hearing no other comments, may I have a motion regarding significant activity?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that the application A15-12.1, 70 North Plains Industrial Road, Cariata Developers, be deemed not a significant activity.
Do I have a second on the motion?
Second?
Any discussion?
No.
Call for a vote, Darrell?
Yes.
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 Yes. Now, may I have a motion regarding approval of this application?
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that the application A15-12.1, 70 North Plains Industrial Road, Cariati Developers, be approved with the one condition as noted in the environmental planner's report of March 31st.
Does that have to be read?
Yes, I'm afraid
Okay.
it is.
The Condition is a copy of the Stormwater Management Maintenance Plan dated March 31st, 2016, is to be filed on the land records, and a copy of the recording submitted to the environmental planner. Filing shall occur before the new and expanded stormwater management system, new units, and additional subsurface piping is installed and operational. Copy to be submitted at a maximum 6 months from the Wetlands Commission approval. Should it not be filed within the stipulated time period, the permittee shall report to the Wetlands Commission on the circumstances preventing its timely filing.
May I have a second on the motion?
Second?
Any discussion on the motion?
No discussion?
Because we have to give a reason for voting, it appears that you've made an excellent engineering and legal presentation regarding this matter, and that you've answered every question that we had and satisfied every concern. So accordingly, I see no reason why not to vote against it. I see no reason to vote against it. Okay, call for a vote. Nick?
Yes.
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 And yes.
Thank you very much.
Next application is a 16-2.1 530 Church Street, TWLC LLC.
Good evening, members of the Commission. For the record, Matt Duche, registered professional engineer with Milone and McBroom. To my left is Bill Root, certified soil scientist, also with Milone and McBroom. As you may recall, the application is for a 7-lot residential subdivision located at 530 Church Street. As you also may recall, we were in front of this commission last month and had presented the application and received some feedback from the commission regarding their concerns. Most notably, I believe the commission had expressed some concern regarding the location of the property within the watershed, as well as some existing drainage issues downstream of the subject property. In response to those concerns, as well as staff comments, we've invested an ample amount of time re-examining our stormwater management model, as well as the practices that we're incorporating into that model. In response to some of the commission's concerns, we've gone ahead and we've enlarged our stormwater management basin. The new basin design will mitigate the peak rates of runoff for a storm larger than the 100-year storm event. The 100-year storm event is approximately a storm of 7 inches in the 24-hour duration, and the current design is designed to accommodate a rainfall event of 8.4 inches. So we've gone ahead and enlarged the stormwater management basin in response to concerns, as well as the location of the property within the overall watershed. In addition to that, we've gone ahead and on the west side of the roadway, you'll see that there's 4 lots. We've incorporated some infiltration practices for those 4 lots. Mainly, we've incorporated that the roof leaders from those 4 lots will be infiltrated in the backyards with any potential overflow discharging to the wetlands. Those infiltration practices will promote some groundwater recharge and will also serve to mitigate some of the increase in runoff volume associated with any development. In response to some staff comments, we've also gone out and done some soil testing on the property. We excavated some test pits in the area of the stormwater management basin in order to establish the maximum groundwater table. As you know, with spring approaching, now is an excellent time to be doing those soil test pits as the groundwater table is at a maximum. the test pits reveal that the groundwater table is approximately 6 feet down in the location of our detention basin, which works well with the design currently shown on the plans. In addition to that, we've changed the outfall of the stormwater management basin to a riprap level spreader versus a plunge pool design. The purpose of that is in order to dissipate any erosive velocities, as well as spread out any concentrated flows so that the discharge of the basin sheet flows into the wetlands. We have gone ahead and responded to staff comments. We have submitted revised plans on both March 31st in response to the two February 16th and February 18th review comments of the environmental planner. And we also went ahead and have submitted revised plans tonight in response to a few of the concerns raised in the environmental planner's report. That more or less summarizes the extent of the changes, most notably being the stormwater management system. We are aware that we did receive an engineering review letter on Monday afternoon. In reviewing that letter, we feel that in working with the engineering department, we can adequately address all the issues. I believe there are two issues pertinent to this commission, which I'd like to discuss. Those being namely the location of the discharge point to the basin, and the comment regarding the 2-year flow rate, which was raised in the engineering review letter. We have reviewed it, like I said, all the comments contained herein. We feel we can adequately address them. The basin discharge, we intend to relocate it 40 feet to the northwest to ensure that the outfall from that basin enters the receiving water body on the subject property. And then in addition to that, we plan to make a minor modification to the outlet control structure in the basin in order to accommodate the comment raised by the town engineer pertaining to the 2-year peak flow rate, namely that the 2-year peak flow rate will be 50% of the pre-development rate. As you guys know, most of the storms that we get are of the 2-year nature. A 2-year storm is a storm that has a 50% chance of occurring in any given year, and a majority of the storms that we get are in that order of magnitude. So the town engineer made the comment that he felt that it was a prudent design to take into account a recommendation in the Stormwater Quality Manual that the post-development 2-year peak flow rate is 50% of the pre-development rate leaving the property.
Well, that was, you'd started to say that, and I want to back up the tape on that one, but then you did, you covered that in your last statement. Is there any other comments you would care to make?
I think that pretty much summarizes the extent of the changes to the plan since last month.
Commissioner?
Did you do the soil testing up there?
Not the deep pit soil testing, but the wetland delineation work I did.
Then you got reports on what quality of soil is up there?
In this area, there was a lot of clay material up top. We actually did 2 rounds of soil testing out there. One initially up near the frontage of the property because of the fact that you do incur a cut as you enter the property. Right. So we did some soil testing to understand the composition of that material, and there was a lot of clay-type substance in that area. Down closer to the basin area, and I think, Bill, you might be able to elaborate on the soil types that we encountered. We were mainly looking for the groundwater depth. The soils, because the groundwater depth in that area is really going to determine the bottom of the basin elevation. We didn't take any samples of the material that was encountered there, but given that the basin bottom is designed to be a wet bottom, which is a primary treatment practice per the Stormwater Quality Manual, we were looking to show that the groundwater table will create the base flow necessary to maintain that without any sort of liner or any sort of provision like that.
Okay. Did I ask, is there any material going off-site, or you're going to work everything on the site?
Yes, we've actually added to the plans the earthwork volumes. I believe one of the staff comments had mentioned that, and on the title sheet you'll see that it's a net cut of 2,600 yards. The plan entails overall cut of 9,800 yards, a fill of 7,200 yards, and overall it's a small net cut of 2,600 yards, and that information is on the title sheet.
So there's about 2,000 is going to leave the site?
Correct. About 2,000 yards of material is intended to leave the site. And mainly most of that cut, as I had mentioned, is up near the entrance where there's a lot of grade that needs to be cut down in order to establish the required sight lines in either direction from the proposed roadways, as well as the building pads for the homes.
You talked about increase on the sizing of the what percentage would you say, 15%?
I'd say that's a fair estimate, something in that order. As I had said before, the basin was previously designed to accommodate 7.1 inches of runoff, which is the 100-year storm event, and it's now designed to accommodate 8.4 inches, which they published data for the 100-year and the 200-year storm. The 8.4 inches is approximately about a 150-year storm event. It's in between the 200-year and the 100-year storm event.
Do you think it's overkill?
I think given the location of the property within the watershed, as well as knowledge of the downstream issues, I think it's adequate to handle the flow coming from the site, and in the event of a large storm event like the 150-year storm, will provide additional protection for downstream property. So I think that it is a good design for this property.
And I think the neighbors downstream will appreciate you added the extra into it from last meeting to this meeting, so a little more protection for them.
Correct.
Ms. O'Hare?
Oh, is everyone done with their questions for the engineer? So, okay. All right, so my environmental planner's report was dated March 31st. It went out in your second packet that you got because I got the plans late. So, you know, I had to send it out the next day. Okay. So pretty much Matt has hit the highlights of all the changes that I requested the first time, all the changes I requested on their revised plan that was dated their plan was dated March 31st. He's incorporated those changes. And tonight, he brought in the final plan, which I just reviewed before the meeting, and I saw that all the changes I had requested were incorporated in there. The changes I'm talking about now are on page 6 and 7 of my environmental planners report. Numbers 1 through 13. Actually, number 12 was already in there. I had missed that. Those were the recharge units. They were already in there. So he gave me the 12 other ones. The 12 other items that I was looking for are in there. Now, concurrently with that, Rob Baltramitis, the town engineer, was writing his review of the project. So that came in Monday. So I had asked him, I had sent him a memorandum in January asking him, the town engineer, to look at this issue about the downstream flooding and the erosion, the existing eroded conditions in that brook or the river that's going to receive these flows, and to see, is there anything we could do with this design? Could we improve it at all? And he took a look at that from an engineering point of view. Meanwhile, I took a look at it from a legal point of view. I actually called the DEP, and they helped me out with this. And on page 5 of the environmental planners report, they assured me, yes, the Wetland Commission does have the purview to look at the impact, the off-site impacts. So I excerpted 2 of the sections out of our regulations. They appear on page 5, just to underscore your authority to look at the impact off-site. The reasonable, I'll quote from it, the reasonable use of property, including abutting or downstream property, which would be caused or threatened by the proposed activity or the creation of conditions which may do so. This includes recognition of potential damage from erosion, turbidity, or siltation, and it goes on, loss of fish, and so on. Also, you have the purview to look at the dangers of flooding and pollution and the destruction of the economic, aesthetic, recreational, and other public and private uses and values of wetlands and watercourses to the community. So it goes beyond just the piece of property that is before us in an application. And then there was a second provision I called out too, measures which could mitigate the impact of any aspect of the proposed regulated activities. Such measures could include, which would be actions which would avoid adverse impacts or lessen impacts to wetlands and watercourses, and that could protect the watercourse's natural capacity to support fish and wildlife, to prevent flooding and prevent erosion, and so on. So you do have the authority to look off-site. And the project engineer appreciated that, and then he has gone the extra distance to give you these improvements in the plan, which you see tonight. So with that said, I am recommending approval of the project. If you feel comfortable moving forward with it tonight, the town engineer's report I distributed tonight, I'm sorry, it includes everything, includes traffic and everything else, because he wrote it jointly for the planning and zoning and for us. But it would be the drainage is on page, it starts the last line on page 3, and it's on page 4. And he was looking for two things. One, Matt mentioned to shift that level spreader to the west so that when it drains right into the river, the stretch of the river that's actually located on the subject property, and it doesn't drain down into the river the stretch of the river that's located on someone else's property. So, and Matt is willing to, this is a change we're gonna affect. That would have to be added as a condition of approval.
That's not a river, Aaron, it's a brook, isn't it? You calling it a river?
I'm sorry, say that again? I'm sorry.
You calling that a river, or is it a brook?
More of a brook, I would think. Stream,
Okay.
watercourse, not quite a river, but it's about it's a 1 or 2 jumper.
You know, it's funny how it all comes together, because last month, you looked at me when we were sitting there, kind of funny, like, what am I looking for? The extra mile. I've never met an engineer or firm that comes in front of us and they've done the extra plus. And just, I know the area out there, and that's why I talked about soils, that. And then I expected really more from Rob, from the town engineer, because he's familiar with that area out there. But if Rob's comfortable, I'm comfortable with it, and I think he did a great job improving what you had provided last month, because I think it's going to help downstream anyhow, as far as in the future.
Thank you.
Okay.
So just to finish with mine, the conditions of approval I'm recommending are on page 7, and they spill over on page 8. But then tonight we have to add the 2 more that Matt referenced. One was moving that level spreader 40 feet to the west, and the other was the adjustment to the weir in the basin, which I'd like Matt to frame the technical language for that, how that should be framed to hold back the floodwaters of almost a 200-year storm. Or...
That modifications to the outlet control structure.
Oh, go slower, go slow. We're going to get this.
Okay.
Somebody's going to have
All
to
right.
write it down. This is part of them.
So modifications to the outlet control structure to ensure that the post-development 2-year peak flow rate will be 50% of the pre-development rate.
Will be 50% of what?
The pre-development rate.
Aaron, can we can we just acknowledge page 7 and page 8 of your conditions instead of reading 2 pages worth into the, is that acceptable as far as the legal side of it?
Oh, okay, yes,
Cindy, you have it on tape? Okay, so
Yes.
if Debbie refers to the conditions of approval on what Aaron has suggested on page 7 and 8, then put them in, okay.
Cindy has a copy of it, so, but you've got to add the 2 new ones, yeah, okay.
Can you repeat that modification to the outlet structure?
Sure.
Yeah.
Modifications to the outlet control structure so that the post-development 2-year peak flow rate will be 50% of the pre-development rate.
Maybe, Mr. Chairman, could I just say what those conditions are? My conditions very quickly is one is wetland placards, refers to wetland placards. The other talks about the fact that the sole responsibility for maintaining the stormwater basin falls on Lot 5, and it has to be recorded in the land records. And then the other thing is for language to be recorded in the deed for Lot 4 to maintain that dam that's at the end of the pond, which falls on Lot 4. And that has to be recorded and so on. And then the stormwater maintenance plan, which they actually have they submitted a while ago, but I want it freestanding in a freestanding document. And they already tightened up the turtle protection measures. There's box turtles that have been found on this property. Box turtles are listed species now. So the DEP wants us to protect them, go the extra mile to protect them. So the site contractor is directed to contact me before they start working, because there's certain protections for the turtles. And then the erosion control, the standard erosion control one.
Okay. Actually, you raised another you remind me of another issue, and that given the difficulty of this project and given the difficulty of this project and what's involved, I believe we need a bond on this. And I was going to ask Mr. Kern for a recommendation on the bond.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
I'm going to say probably a construction bond of $20,000, just for ungodly things that might happen. Is that it? I mean, $20,000 would clean up any kind of mess you're going to have out there. One of the things I caught and I didn't ask you about was the roof drain runoffs. You're going to put them into galleys. Was that your design, or is that something you thought we would want to see as far as for recharge with the soils?
It was a recommendation of staff, and it was something that we felt, at least on the western side of the property, was a good measure in order to mitigate some of the increase in volume of runoff, not just peak rates. So it seemed to make sense at that location in order for groundwater recharge as well as some volume reduction.
Just not knowing what the life expectancy of the dry well would it be better to run them right out to the storm sewers and tie them into the storm sewers, or no?
I mean, in terms of mitigating some of the flow going directly to the wetlands, yes, it would be, because the overflow pipe for these is designed to daylight or discharge to the wetland corridor there in the event that it's overburdened on a given storm event.
So we talked about a lot of clay in the soils, so when the dry well fails, the overflow is going to come out on the lawn, then run down and cause icing effect into the street, or?
It's going to go out to the backyards. Those backyards shed down towards the wetlands, so they're all those pipes daylight in the backyard and would sheet flow to the wetland from the daylight location.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
On that, are there any questions at all whatsoever?
No.
May I have a motion regarding significant activity?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that application 16-2.1, 530 Church Street, TWLC residential subdivision development, 7 lots, be deemed not a significant activity.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Call for a vote, Nick?
Yes.
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 And yes. May I have a motion regarding the approval of application A16-2.1, 530 Church Street?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that application A16-2.1, 530 Church Street, TWLC residential subdivision development, 7 lots, be approved with the conditions noted in the environmental planners report of 1 through 9, and then a few additional ones. Number 10, moving the level spreader 40 feet to the west, and 11, modifications to the outlet control structure so that post-development 2-year flow rate will be 50% of the pre-development rate, and there'll be a construction bond of $20,000.
Do I have a second on the motion?
We got a comment.
Comments?
Could I suggest making that an E&S bond of $20,000, which is just what we call it. We call it E&S bond.
It will be an E&S bond of $20,000.
It's going to be E&S, but it's going to be construction. It's going to be for the whole sequence of the whole project.
Oh, okay, so it's beyond,
Yes, because too many times after the fact, there's a problem. So
Okay, maybe you need to indicate when this bond gets released then, because I'm unclear when it would get released.
Some of the bonds we've put in place in the years past, they've come back for a release, a partial release. If for some reason these 6 houses or 8 houses, whatever, isn't built all at once and the project's not completed, I'd rather have some type of a bond on there to protect us for down the road. So with a construction bond, it's the sequence of the construction that happens the whole site, where your E&S, okay?
That's interesting. Yeah.
Times turn hard and they only build 3 houses and the other ones aren't built, they're going to come back and say, well, we're not going to build them for 5 years. We release it, then we've got nothing to hold if there's a problem after the fact. Where here we've got,
Okay, all right, I got it.
that's why we're calling it construction and not E&S.
I got it, thank you.
Do I have a second on the motion?
I'll second the motion.
Any discussion?
I just want to thank you for the extra.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
From what I can see, this is a difficult project because you have a steep slope here, okay, and it's going into another division, into other subdivisions. So this took some engineering talent in order to get something that would work, and that it further appears that you've answered every question, every concern, gone outside the property, have done everything to put together an acceptable or actually an excellent application, so that I'm inclined to vote for it. Anyone else? Okay, everybody agrees? Okay, in that case, I call for a vote, and Darrell?
Yes.
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 And yes.
Thank you very much.
Under new business, we have the receipt of new applications. Ms. O'Hare?
Oh, yes, that has been withdrawn. The new application for 1193 Durham Road, that has been withdrawn before the meeting. Is that what we're talking about, F?
Yes.
That was withdrawn, so that's all set to go.
And there's no action required on our time.
Oh, that's, I'm sorry.
There's no action required on our
No
part.
actions required.
Perfect.
It was withdrawn.
Okay. With respect to election of officers, we have to postpone this again because we don't have all the regular members here. On the budget for fiscal year 16-17, did you have any comments, or is there anything that we really know, or do you have that under control?
No, I'm required to attend both of these hearings that I do every year, and it's, you never know what kind of questions you're going to get asked, and that's how it goes.
Okay. With item I, reports and communications, is there any comments that you have or things that we have to know?
No, I gave the Southwest Conservation District newsletter out tonight. Oh, I did put something else on the desk tonight, the Tyler Mill workshop. There's going to be a guest speaker. The Conservation Commission is having a guest speaker come to the library on April 16th, and he's a renowned biologist, ecologist, site planner. His name is Dr. Michael Clemens, and he has been retained by the Conservation Commission to do an analysis of Tyler Mill Preserve and to explain at the library. It's going to be a seminar on how you analyze habitats and how you prioritize the preservation and protection and the management of a landscape based on discrete habitats. So that, and of course, wetlands. There's a lot of wetlands at Tyler Mill, so a lot of the focus will be on wetlands and amphibians and such.
Okay.
Oh, just one, if I could do one more.
Yes.
Nick, the Quinnipiac River Linear Trail, you were gonna, there's
an issue with that. And
Yeah, the town engineer's working with them out there. They're going to modify what they've put in it that's not working. So they may come back in front of us for a short, a field change on their print, or they may just go and do it. But Rob's working with them, and it's going to satisfy the problem with the water being retained instead of being discharged. So that's something we'll keep you in the loop on. So.
That drawing went out in the first packet, the drawing that from the town engineer.
I see people still in the audience. Do they wish to speak on any matter, or is that part, or that's
What?
part of the violations?
Jay?
On the violation, okay. Okay, violations, 3 Powers Road, notice of violation, Dave Oronic.
Hi, my name is David Warnick. I own Green Warnick Builders, LLC in Wallingford. My office is at 339 Barnes Road. Regarding these violations, that piece of property was subdivided before I bought it, and I bought a 2-acre lot above that. And the violations that are here, it was from the property's owner's nephew, who had a quad trail, who destroyed the wetlands, cut trees down, tires in the pond, pallets, jumps, and what a mess. I buy the piece of property with that. Now, this has been going on for years. And Aaron apparently never saw this ever happen. But I go over there, I brush hogged. There's a 7-acre piece. I brush hog it. I take the tires out, I take the pallets out, cleaned it up. So-called, she gets a phone call. Before this subdivision was approved, there were people there wanting to know what I was going to do with the piece of property because of all the quad trails and motorcycles going around this property. I met with Erin out there, and she accused me of cutting trees down. And I said to her, I said, I did not do any of this. Maybe she had her blinders on, I don't know. But I knew I wasn't going to get anywhere, so I wanted the commission to come out to look at this. And the commission decided not to come out. So here's where we're at.
So here,
This is everything Dave said is pretty accurate. I did get a complaint saying somebody's cutting trees down, and I did go out and photograph trees that had been cut within a few days. This was, oh gosh, this goes back, let's see, the original violation goes back to last May, so that's a year ago, the original violation with the trees coming down and so on. The ownership, Mr. Warnick, who's here today, owns the property, so we have to give the notice of violation to the owner of the property. I have no idea what individual who cut the trees down. Was he a hired contractor? Was it the nephew he referred to? I don't know who did it. We violate the property owner. That's the process. I have to issue the violation to somebody. So the property owner, Mr. Dave Warnick, was noticed. So that was the original notice. And then, of course, it was on the agenda for several times, and we asked for the remediation for 25 shrubs to be planted there, not trees, specifically shrubs, because if it was trees, it would block the view of the future homeowner. They want to maybe see the pond. So it was 25 shrubs, but Mr. Warnick has to date not planted these shrubs, so I had no alternative but to pursue this again, and that's why it's on the agenda again, to pursue this notice of violation. So I would ask the commission to go ahead and vote on the notice, to uphold the notice, because the town attorney brought it to my attention, it wasn't voted on properly before. Everyone has to vote that this notice is in force.
Can we quiz them first?
Yeah,
Pardon me?
Can I finish?
Wait a minute, Dave. Can we quiz them first?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
This is a hearing.
So I asked Erin, I said to her, I said, why would I go down on a 3-acre parcel? I built in this town for 40 years, and I have a very well reputation, and I've been before you people, many subdivisions. I never had a problem. Why would I go down 3 acres down and cut a tree down, or trees? There's no reason to do that. You must have wanted firewood. I don't want to deal with her. And this is crazy even being here, so.
Did they get the firewood?
No, it's still there if you want it up on top of the lot.
So then basically, it's private property damage.
This was, I just can't believe nobody seen what was going on over there.
Well, you're the property owner, unfortunately, you're responsible for your property. Aaron recognized an issue which we pursued. Now, to resolve it, you're telling us, did you do anything to prevent what's happening out there with either your nephews or whoever's going through there with the quads? Have you done anything?
No, I didn't do any of that. No, that was the prior owners. I didn't own the property then.
But you said you went out there and brush hogged, right?
I brush hogged when there was 7 acres total.
Right.
The owner of the property had that 3-acre lot subdivided in his house. And then I bought it when it was all subdivided. I had another 2-acre lot up on top. So it was all one big piece of property. His nephew, nothing to do with me, over the years, ruined this piece of property. I had nothing to do with it.
All right. Have you done any kind of prevention to stop this, for any more clearing in the wetlands? Have you done?
No.
Do you feel inclined to do something to prevent this to keep happening?
It was a truck farm. I mean, there is no, I mean, you can't do any more damage than what's done. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's mowed. If you saw the pictures, I just brush hogged it, myself and my son, all 7 acres of it, because it was all with briars and stuff. But I did not cut any trees, and I didn't do it. Why would I do it? I mean, I'm not lying. If I did it, I would tell you.
All right, well, we're trying to get the point across is how do we prevent this from happening where they go in and do more damage to the wetlands, cut down the trees or whatever?
When I sell the lot, or if I build a house, I mean, I'm selling the lot. I'm retiring. I'm selling the lot. So, yeah,
How much damage was done, Aaron? How many trees or, I don't remember. I know what came in front of us, but what?
I believe there was 42 trees over, well, I'd have to look it up, actually. Something like
42 trees in the wetlands? Or 42 trees on the
not in the wetlands. These are all in the upland review area. I didn't go into all this ATV damage that was just described. We didn't even go there. This was just about trees that were cut and laid on the land.
All right.
Or stumps sitting there.
I want to remind you again that upland review area is just what it says. Upland review is our decision to do what needs to be done or not to be done. It's not to say it's a violation, but it's to be inquired. We have permission to regulate what happens in the upland review area.
I agree with you. I mean, I'm telling you, if I bought that piece of property, and I bought many properties in Wallingford, and I know better, I would never go in the wetlands, and there's no reason to do that. It's a 3-acre lot. The house is going to be 2 acres up the road. I mean, I have a map. I can show you the trail.
I would just.
And I mean, I honestly, maybe there was one tree that they cut down, and I cut them up. I didn't cut anything down. But I mean, if you look at all of that, you can see where you brush hogged, where I brush hogged. I mean, and see where the top slope is, where the water would be, where the pond is. You can see where and then there's still evidence out there of where these quads, moved all the dirt in the tires, in the pallets. I cleaned all of that stuff up.
All right. So, Aaron, you're saying we need to act on it tonight as far as the violation stays in place, or we vote?
Well, no, here's what the town attorney has explained. We've been acting on notices of violation since I came here 11 years ago. But when I write a letter like this, a notice of violation, and now the commission has a hearing, they're supposed to affirm this letter. In other words, I sent out the notice of violation. They're supposed to vote to say, yeah, we back up this notice that went out. That's all. We should have done this a year ago. We should do it on every notice of violation case. Is I sent out the letter maybe in the middle of the month, maybe at the end of the month, whenever, and then when it comes before the commission, the first thing you got to do is affirm that you are on board with the notice of violation. So you vote that there is a notice of violation. You're issuing a notice of violation. You're affirming this order. So that's just a procedural thing.
All right.
Yeah,
What would he gain by taking the trees down?
By what?
What was he going to gain by taking the trees down? Can you see, make it accessible? It's going to make another building lot out of it? He's going to put a house on it? What do you think?
I'm not saying Mr. Warnick himself took the trees down. I don't know who took the trees down. They're down, and what Mr. Chairman Vitale, when this came down, when this came before the commission several times, it was decided, Chairman Vitale decided that we had to protect this slope. It's naked, it's unprotected, and that would be best protected by the remediation with 25 shrubs. Maybe someone took them down to get a better view of the pond. Or for firewood. I don't know why somebody took them down.
Right.
But
it's an upland review area. I'm just trying to pick your brain so the rest of the commission can make a decision here.
all right, some of the members weren't sitting back then, right? Maybe. Yeah, it was wooded and shrubby and viney and had a lot of multiflora rose bushes on it. You know, kind of.
All right, you're concerned about there's no protection for erosion. You've been out there recently. Is there erosion happening because the trees are gone, or no?
No, I'm not. The ground wasn't dug up. The grass that was on the surface was not disturbed. No, there was no erosion going on.
There's no erosion. All right, so then it's stabilized, just that the trees are missing.
Right. Really, you need a permit. Really, the focus of the Chairman Vitale was that you need a permit for any activity within the upland review area. You need to come before a commission, anybody does, and get a permit. And you get it approved or denied or whatever. You don't alter landscapes without a permit within 50 feet of a pond. You're not supposed to do that.
All right, so if the applicant is just going to keep it groomed so the multiflora rose doesn't take over and not do any further developing or land clearing, would that be adequate as far as remediation to what's happened?
Well, back in the fall or last summer when this was being discussed with the commission, I felt strongly that some plant materials, some shrubs should be put back there. It's clear, it's like a park now.
If it was a wetland area, I'd agree with you, but it's an upland review area. The only thing that he didn't do it, first of all, but the only thing he did wrong, or whoever did it, didn't ask for permission. It's an upland review area that we review. What are we going to have him put juniper shrubs? I would rather have him maintain that to keep the abrasive species, the aggressive species going back in there. Multiflora rose, juniper, knotweed, bamboo, all those things that we have problems in this town with. I'd rather see the violator promise to maintain that lot and not do any more clearing and leave it the way it is. I mean, I don't see what we're going to gain by having them spend money and put shrubs in. You're going to have shrubs out in the middle of a lot that, I don't know. How does the rest of the commission feel?
Okay, excuse me. Yeah, what I'm seeking to know is, I guess, is that what's the cost, what's the benefit to doing this if, as Mr. Kearns maintains, that if you just maintain, I guess what would maintenance be?
Maintenance, maintenance, it's upland review area that can be maintained. The
Well,
trees,
yeah, but how do you do it? I mean, you run a lawn.
they brush hogs. You're going to continue to brush hog it?
I did the brush hogging with my own tractor.
Yeah.
I didn't hire anybody.
Okay, but I mean, okay, we're not saying who's doing, we're just saying how it's done, who the owner is. That's not, or who the actual person doing it is not relevant. But from what I'm hearing from Mr. Kern is that if you just maintain this with your brush hog on your tractor, okay, then that'll have the effect of preventing any erosion or any difficulties in the upland review area.
Right, there's no erosion over there.
Okay, now that's alternative one. Now we have alternative two, plant 35 juniper bushes
Junipers.
and just,
If,
then what would happen on that? Well, then it's not in there with this brush hog anymore. But then what would happen? You know, because Mr. Kern is saying, well, if you don't get in there with the brush hog, then the next thing you know, you have species that we don't like growing there. Is that true? I'm asking, that's for you.
You can't, I know where you're coming from, but sometimes you gotta compromise and come out, share the burden and the load. We're not gonna gain anything in that particular area by putting shrubs in there, and it's gonna prevent him from maintaining it with an abrasive species that could sneak in there, multiflower rose or whatever. I'm not gonna repeat myself, but do you see my side of the story here as far as where we're going with this? We need to let them know, and we probably should have said it with the letter of violation when we wrote the original letter, was that you need to stop what you're doing. It's an upland review area. You need to come before us. For any future disturbance needs to be approved by the Wetlands Commission. We jumped right into a violation because I thought it was closer to the pond and it was in the wetland area. It was within the wetland buffer area, or the wetland, I thought we were within 50 feet of the,
It is within 50 feet of the pond. And it's a steep slope. But I guess Mr. Warnock was then given the opportunity to apply retroactively, and he declined to apply retroactively. I think it's the point, people out there can't just be clearing right up to a pond's edge without a permit.
but I didn't clear it. That's the problem. I didn't make the damage. That's what I'm
well,
trying to
that's the
tell you.
other thing.
But I mean,
If he cut the wood down, why didn't he take the firewood? That's what makes me believe
Right.
that he's not, he would have taken the firewood of value. The
I-
firewood's of value.
I didn't do it. I know
Okay.
better.
Okay. But on the other hand, and this is directed to you and also to our TV audience, is that you have the responsibility for your property, whether, and is it does some evil person came in here and did this nasty trick to you because they cut down your trees. But you still are responsible for the damage that may cause. Now, and in this case, any environmental damage that it caused. Now that, we've got that, I think as long as we've got that point nailed down, now I think we can go back and we can say, okay, how do we cure this damage? And we have two alternatives that we're discussing. One is we're just going to put junipers in, and that's the end of it. And the other alternative that is proposed by Mr. Kern is that, no, if you run the brush hog, this brush hog, what is it?
It's a big lawnmower.
It's a big lawnmower, okay?
That's all it is.
Okay, and when he runs that over, he keeps the thing under control. You don't have invasive plants, but you also do not have any damaging runoff. Okay? Now, we all have to decide on the thing, but I kind of like, I don't know, I kind of like the brush hog approach, but I think the other commissioners, we've not let you say anything at all, so if there's any comments, I certainly want to hear them.
Being one of your neighbors, That area, for him to protect it would be impossible other than fencing it in. And it is an area where somebody could just sneak in, cut some trees down and take the wood away. I agree with Commissioner Kern. I say leave it and just brush hog it.
I also agree.
Now we hit, but now we have a situation, because we have a letter out. And the thing is, you know, when a letter goes out in good faith after him being discussed, you know, it is difficult, okay, to call it back. But I'm wondering if we could, if we can do one or two things. Now, call the letter back. Call that letter back.
In answer to your question, you could say the notice of violation is no longer in effect. That's the process. However, there's two things you can do for an activity in a wetland. You can apply for it, or you can get a notice of violation and you remediate it. So that's the choice. If Mr. Warnick's going to continue to brush hog within 50 feet of a pond, he either needs a permit to do so, or he needs to remediate it, and brush hogging wouldn't be remediating. In other words, he needs a permit to continue brush hogging this area. And I guess that's another question. Do you want him to brush hog right up to the water's edge, or you want him to stop brush hogging to where 30 feet of the pond? Do you want this pond to have any protection, like for ducks that are nesting there, any vegetative protection, or would you like it to look like a park? Right up to the edge. You have to be, if you're going to say he can brush hog, you have to establish a dimension, but also he needs either an application or a remediation order. We have neither now. He has an activity within 50 feet of a pond with no permission, nothing written down. There's nothing.
How many ponds in this town do we have that there's activity around the pond for maintenance we're not being notified on? It's a maintenance procedure that happens.
It's been going on for years, maybe.
I agree with you, Aaron.
Right.
What are we going here? We need to notify the property owner that it's not to happen again. And like he said, we should have caught it sooner. Maybe he should have caught it sooner. What are we going to do? All we can do is give him a letter saying that in the future this has to, you've got to notify the Wetlands Commissioner or apply for an application or whatever. It's behind us. And the sad part about this is the wood's laying there and nobody's using the wood. It's a product that could have been kept somebody warm for half the winter or whatever. It's a shame because I don't know.
I don't know why the wood wasn't used. I gave him permission to use the wood.
Well, he uses oil or coal, I don't know.
If you want it, you can have it. It's up to
No.
I know. I'm only kidding.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to resend the letter then? Is that what we want to go towards? But I don't understand the planting of the shrubs. I don't see what we're going to gain there as far as, basically it's his property, it's an upland review area. If he wanted to replant where the trees were, does he need to come in front of us?
I don't think he's planning to replant anything.
I'm sure, but he's asking the question, if he did, would he have to come in front of us?
I'm asking you a question. If Mr. Warnick decided he wanted to plant something there, would he have to come in front of us? Or he can just go ahead and plant it? It's in the upland review area now.
Probably what folks do is they come and ask me, and sometimes it's an administrative approval. Chairman Vitale gives administrative approvals for activities that are not too close to the water or the wetlands. It would be something like that.
All right. I mean, I believe the two things here are how to get this letter cleared up, and you talked about the properties for sale.
Right, I'm retiring.
Well, you're retiring, but I mean, evidently the property's for sale.
Yes.
And somehow we need to impose on you to let whoever purchased the property from you that there can't be any more disturbance around that pond?
Right.
Without first coming here to get permission?
I mean, let me ask you a question. I mean, it's a 3-acre lot. Now, this lot can have horses on it. Am I right or wrong?
As long as the neighbors buy the property to put the horses on it.
No, I'm saying, with a 3-acre lot, you can allow horses, correct?
Right.
I mean, if a person who bought had horses, they would have to fence that 50 feet off so a horse wouldn't go down into the wetlands? I mean,
You fall into a
I don't
different
know.
category.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going a different route here, because agricultural is handled different.
I can tell whoever buys it, don't brush hog it, or don't mow it, or whatever. I don't know. I'm
Okay.
not doing anything.
Okay, but now I'm starting to see a problem. And I think that the best way to handle this, two things: withdraw the letter. Number two, come in with a permit, because Ms. O'Hare has raised a proper question as to what does brush hogging, is that right? Brush hogging entail. And I think those issues are best addressed with an application.
Not really, because it falls under maintenance.
Does maintenance need?
The trees don't, the cutting the trees fall under application or permission.
Okay.
The maintenance doesn't fall under, it falls under maintenance. So he doesn't have to have a permit to perform maintenance out there.
Okay, but where my thinking's going here is that we have this problem, we come to an agreement, and it's even, we have come to an agreement with the present property owner, the thing gets sold, the next thing you know, the swimming pool's going right in. And then the person comes and says, well, I didn't know about that. Well, the thing is, in fact, there was nothing on the land records that said you can't do that. So what I'm looking for, if it's needed, is some mechanism that puts the new owner on notice that you can maintain the property and I'm kind of looking as to what that maintenance includes. Have I confused you?
No, I guess one thing I'm thinking of is this pond is only bare on one side. I'd like the other three sides to remain as vegetated as they are today. It's only brush hogged on one side.
Okay, but then we go back to it, well, how do we let him brush hog? By the way, when he sells his property, maybe he takes the brush hog with him, or because he's retired. Go ahead.
Could I say something?
Sure.
Aaron's right. There's only one side you could brush hog by the pond. The other side, going up Route 150, is all trees, and it's, trees probably this big. I don't know what they are. They're all vines, and you couldn't get in there with a brush hog anyways, unless you went in there with a tractor or chipper and cut it and chipped it. So really, there's no way you're ever going to, get to that. It's only on the upper side. There's a little bit where the brush hog. Other than that, you can't do it. You can't get in there. I mean, that's the way it is.
See, Aaron, I'm thinking about the agricultural side of it. With the new laws now with manure, he'd have to have it fenced, I think it's 30 or 50 feet from the edge of the water. That's a no zone for fertilization, for manure, horse manure, whatever. So there's regulations in place for that. So if he going to give it to somebody that's going to have horses out there, the fence line's going to be 50 feet from the edge of the water. He's still allowed to maintain around that pond as far as maintenance for grooming. He can't put a lawn in, but he can brush hog it or under the pasture regulation, farm pasture or whatever you want to call it, because it's being used as agricultural.
Right, but he does need even under the agricultural, he needs a permit to install fences in a wetland, or in an upland wetland, whatever.
I think where we're going with this is we need something a stopping mechanism that it has to stop here. I mean, would it be, are we powered enough that we could put something on the deed so that notifies the person that's going to buy the property from Mr. Warnick what his restrictions are to the piece of property?
Yes, you can put something on a deed if you have an application in front of you, or if you have a notice of violation in front of you.
All right.
So,
but if we have a notice of violation, then we have to act on it tonight, right?
You don't have to, you could table it. Or act on it.
Yeah, because what I can see is, okay, what I see, Skern has an idea, you have an idea, the property owner has an idea. It seems that it seems that we have like a potential solution, but we haven't figured out a way to put it in writing so that it would appear on the land record. Says, I'm really concerned that the new owner has notice of what is involved in that property, because even when you do give notice, even if when you put wetland placards out there, the swimming pool goes in, or the garden goes in, or the Japanese stuff goes, or the bamboo goes in. And because, we've given it some thought, I think that we would be much better off tabling this until next month. And especially, I'd feel much more comfortable if the chairman were here instead of as well as the acting chairman, to get this resolved. So I guess my first question to you is, do you have any question if we table this for another month?
If somebody buys this lot and goes to the town and gets a building permit, the wetlands would all have to be flagged, am I right?
No, they're already flagged. We already got the flagging. Somebody flagged it.
So, but wouldn't somebody have to put up silt fence, or?
Well, so
they would be on notice,
well, no, okay, what we're really,
Dave, what about would you accept the litigation for the violation letter as something going on the land records or on the deed stating that there's to be no activity in that area that we're talking about? Would that be enough litigation for you that you feel comfortable that resolves this letter of violation that he's got? That's a rectification to.
It might not be sold for years.
And it's on the land there.
once it's on the land record, that's okay, because the title searcher he would come across that notice.
Could we use that for remediation, Aaron? A letter it's attached to the deed records as
Yeah, first you have to affirm that this is a notice of violation, because I didn't think you were comfortable with that part of it. And then to remediate the notice of violation, to get it away, you would act to put it on the deed, that, however you want to phrase it. I don't know how you'd want to phrase it, but yes, you could put it on the deed.
Yeah, but okay, and this has convinced me more and more I'd like to table this thing, and also let you talk to Janet about it, or Janice.
Yeah, Janet.
Okay, so that, because one of the disadvantages of being an attorney is you can think of, more angles in a geometry book. So that I personally would be more comfortable if we table this thing out, let you get your, see what you can do. She may have some draft language that would be more acceptable, and then we can go ahead and do it. And also, grant some relief to the property owner who, had his trees cut down on him.
Because I didn't violate anything.
No, but we're understanding that, but you do understand that whoever, this nasty person did it, left you holding the bag, because you're the owner of the property and you're responsible. And
Well, I think it was a bunch of kids.
well, whatever we may think, but whatever we may think, the fact is, you're the owner, you're responsible, and we have you.
we're not asking you to do really anything. All you're doing is going to make work.
But what we are saying that what we want to do is we want to table this till the next meeting and see if we can come up with something that's going to really preserve the wetlands and not duly burden a property owner. That's all fair?
Yeah, something we won't need a lawyer for, right?
Make it, yeah, okay, the goal is make it simple enough we don't need an attorney. Okay, now, on tabling, do we need a motion to table, or can we just?
No, Chairman
Okay.
Vitale just closes it. just moves
Okay.
on. It'll be on the agenda next month.
Okay, but before I do that, anybody have anything to say whatsoever? Okay. In that case, we'll table a motion.
I thought you were going to say I said too much already.
And the next,
We're all set, Dave?
We're all set?
Yep,
Okay.
good night.
Okay.
thank you for coming in. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.